All right, we are going to be reviewing how to find mean, median, mode, and range. This should be concepts that you should have learned in elementary school. And so for the rest of the week here, we're going to be working within these skills. So the purpose of this video is just to recap, review how to find each of our different measures of tendency here. So we're going to start with mean. And when we talk about mean, that's really just finding the average of a set of data or set of numbers here. And to do that, what formula we use is that we're going to add all of the items and then divide by the number of items. So looking here at our table with the temperatures, we're going to add all of our temperatures and then divide by the number of temperatures that are given to us. So in my work, I would show 52 plus 51 plus 49 plus 48 plus 54. And when I add all of those together, you could use a calculator to help you. You should end up with 254. Now, our next step is to divide by the number of items. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So we're going to divide by 5. Again, you can put that into the calculator, taking 254 divided by 5. And when you divide, you come out with 50 and 8/10. So 50.8 degrees Fahrenheit would be our average. So across all 5 days, it was on average 50.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Some days were lower, some days were higher. That's our average there. So as an additional example here in the next one, the heights of 8 boys in a math class are 58, 60, 48, 54, 62, 60, 58, and 56. So we're going to find the mean, or the average, of their heights. So we're going to add all of these together. Okay, writing those out. When we add all of those together, again, you can use a calculator to help you with this step. You get 456. So that is their sum. Now we want to divide by the number of items. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 data values. So we're taking 456 divided by 8 to get 57. So 57 would be our answer here. So that is mean, finding the average. As we move on to median, what we know about median is this typically is the middle value. So when we list out our numbers, it's the one that is just in the middle there. Okay, and the most important thing to remember when you're solving for median or identifying the median is down here in our caution box, that the data must be in order before we look at the middle value, listing it from least to greatest or greatest to least. Okay, so before you can figure out what the median is, you need to have your data values listed either least to greatest or greatest to least. So let's use this first example here to help us. So the number of points scored by 7 students in a language test are listed here. We're going to find the median. So I always write it in least to greatest order. Again, you could do greatest to least if that's what you want, but I'm going to be showing within least to greatest. So I see 46, then 58, then 63, 68, 74, 85, and then 91. Okay, so I have my values listed in least to greatest order that now I'm going to find the middle point. And to do that, I usually just pick a different color and I start crossing off my numbers from either end. So 46, 91, 58, 85, 63, 74. I can see I'm left with 68 in the middle, so 68 is our median. Okay, we're going to do a similar idea here in the next problem. However, it's presented to us in a little different way. Right here we have a dot plot. So each dot represents a value, a data point that was collected. So we can still go through and cross off. We're just going to cross off our dots as we go to help us find the median. It's already listed essentially in least to greatest or greatest to least order. Okay, so I'm going to start crossing off at 1 and then 5, 2, 4, 2, 3. Now, different than last time, we had one exact number directly in the middle. But here, we have two values still left over. And so when that happens, we have to follow what's listed here in our red box. That when we have an even number of values, to identify our middle point, we have to find the mean of those two middle values. So I have to add 2 plus 3 and then divide by the number of values that I have. So 5 divided by 2, if I plug that into the calculator, my median ends up being 2.5. So it's not going, when you have an even set, it's not going to be exactly one of the data points given to you. You might have to find the mean of those two. Moving on to mode. Mode is what we call, or mode can be described as identifying the number that occurs most often. Or is listed the most often. So order doesn't necessarily matter with mode. You can leave the order as is, or you can list it in least to greatest order if you really want to. Maybe there's going to be other parts of the problem in which you'd also be asked about the median, and at that point you'd want to list in least to greatest order, but for this example, we're not going to worry about doing that. So we want to look at our list of numbers and see, is there a number that occurs more than once? Okay, I have 76, 85, 65, 58, 68, 72, 91, and 68. If I look at my list, I can see that 68 is here, and it's also listed here. So our mode for this set of data points is going to be 68 because it occurs the most often. Everything else is just listed one time, 68 is listed twice. All right, looking at the next example, we have this table showing shoe sizes and the number of pairs of shoes sold at the shop last month. So to identify our mode, we're going to focus on the number of pairs of shoes. Okay, and I want to identify which value is our mode. So in the number of pairs of shoes, which one occurs the most often? Okay, I can see I have a 30 here and a 30 here. Everything else is listed just once, so our mode for this set of data, or our pairs of shoes, would be 30. One thing to point out here in our math note is that in a set of data, we could have more than one mode. We could have 30. Let's say that there was another 3 listed, so 30 and 3 would both be the modes. You can have more than one. On the flip side, there can also be no mode. So if no numbers repeat, there can also be no mode, in which you would just write that as your answer, no mode. Okay, in our last skill that we're going to be remembering here is range, finding the range. So really what we're doing here is we're finding the difference, between the largest and the smallest values. Okay, and that's not focusing on the frequency, which would be your first column here in your tables. We're focusing on our number of pair of shoes. Okay, so I want to identify what my lowest and my highest values are. So as I look at my data table, I can see 6 is the lowest and I can see 18 is the highest. So to find the range, I'm just going to subtract those two, listing the largest first and then the smallest. And that would be my answer. Okay, again, all of these should be reviewed. These are skills that you learned in elementary school. We're going to use these over the next couple of days with some in-class activities. But hopefully you've been following along, filling out your notes, and then if you are done at this point, you can upload your work to Schoology. Come to class with questions if you have them.